guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Laura. If you're new here, I talk about luxury topics like handbags, shoes, and things like that. So if those are topics that you're interested in, please take a second to subscribe to this channel and click the notification button so that you don't miss any of my videos. Today I'm going to be talking about the Dior espadrilles, the D-Way slides, and the Walk-In Dior sneakers. So let's get started. So I'm going to start off with my favorite pair of Dior shoes, and it is their espadrilles. I have these in this gorgeous floral pattern. I think this was from last summer. They came out with this pattern, I think on book totes and some other items, and it was a very, very pretty and popular pattern. And I was lucky because I was a little late seeing these, and I was able to get the last pair in my size in the US, which is a size 37. So looking at the shoe, they have a leather lining interior. The upper is also leather. And then they're embroidered with this really pretty floral pattern that I mentioned. And then of course, here you're going to have Christian Dior embroidered on the top of the shoe with Paris right underneath it. Now, as far as the fit of this shoe goes, I would say that they're true to size, but when you buy them in your size, they are going to be a little snug, especially right here. When I bought them, I was worried that they were not going to be a good fit because they were so tight across the top of my foot because of this band that has Christian Dior on it. That I worried that they weren't going to be the right size, and I was trying to see if they had the next size, which they did not. So I ended up taking them in my usual size, and I'm really glad that I did because after a few wears, the leather inside really softens and starts to loosen up and really molds to your foot. And so this no longer is an issue. It's not tight anymore across my foot. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're trying on the Dior espadrilles in your normal size. If they feel a little snug across the top of your foot, then that is something that is definitely going to go away. The leather is going to loosen, and I think this is true for most espadrilles as long as they're made out of leather. Now, of course, looking at the other details of the shoe, along the bottom, you're going to have the braided material, which I think is like a raffia material. And then this is where the shoe is sewn onto. So you'll see the stitching along the side, connecting it to the bottom of the shoe. And then on the actual bottom of the shoe, it's also leather. And then if you look closely, it is going to have Dior with the little star. And this shoe is made in Spain. Another thing that I wanted to mention as far as comfort, these are going to be my most comfortable shoes from Dior. When I wore them, they did not cause me any issues, any blisters. The only issue I had was the tightness across the top that I mentioned earlier, but that is just something to consider when you're buying shoes. I feel like a lot of designer shoes, when you get them, they're just not comfortable and they have a really hard break-in period. And so it's just something that I wanted to mention if you're considering these shoes. Out of the three, I will say they are the most comfortable brand new. Next up are my Dior D-Way slides. I've also heard people call them Dway slides. I'm not sure which is the right pronunciation. If you know, please let me know in the comments below, but for now, I'm gonna call them the D-Way slides. Mine are the white and gold metallic style that came out in this year's cruise collection. Much like the espadrille, you're going to have Christian Dior Paris written on the inside of the shoe, and then also along the top of the shoe, it is also embroidered there. And then when we look at the bottom of the shoe, it is also leather, and it will have Dior written on the bottom with the star, and these particular shoes were made in Italy. Currently, these shoes are retailing for $730, which I think is kind of ridiculous for, no, I know it's ridiculous for a slide, but there are several different D-Way slides that I have been admiring over the years, and every time I thought too much about it and I decided to get them, I would go back on the website and they'd be sold out. So when these came out this year for the cruise collection, I didn't sit on it. I just ran over to my Saks. Luckily, they had them. They were the last pair in my size again, so I lucked out this time and I decided to pull the trigger and spend $730 for a pair of slides, which I know is crazy, but I really like them. They're very popular. A lot of people love this shoe, and it is a classic slide, so if you did want to get a slide from a designer, I would say the D-Way are a very good choice. However, I will say that with a big however, they are not the most comfortable shoe when you buy them. When I bought the shoe, the upper part of the shoe was and still is incredibly stiff. The first time I wore these shoes, this part of the shoe completely tore up the tops of my toes. It was really, really painful. So I'm just gonna be straight up with you. They're not the most comfortable thing when you first buy them. After a few wears, they do soften up because the upper is leather. So this is gonna happen with any leather shoe. It is going to be more stiff when you get it, and then over time with the warmth of your foot and just movement, they soften. So my advice is this: when you buy a leather shoe that is stiff, I like to take a blow dryer to it. And what I do is I usually wear a pair of socks, and I will blow dry the shoe with my foot in it so that it sort of molds to my foot. I do this a few times, and normally that will help soften the leather and break in shoes. I've done this with my husband's dress shoes and all of my shoes, so definitely a tip that I recommend when you're buying new shoes. But now that I've had these slides for a while and I've worn them several times, I'm not having the issue anymore of them hurting the tops of my toes, and they're comfortable. They don't give you a lot of support. They're really thin. So if you're a person who maybe has arch issues or foot issues and you need a little more support, then I would say the D-Way are probably a skip. And finally, we have my Dior Walk in Dior sneakers. I love these sneakers from Dior. Personally, I don't often buy designer sneakers because I don't think they're worth the money. For me, sneakers are the shoe that get beat up the most in my collection and show wear and tear the fastest. So I don't often want to spend a lot of money on shoes. I'm usually very happy with like a pair of Adidas sneakers, but because these are so unique looking, I told myself they weren't going to be shoes that I would probably wear every day, so I thought that they might last me a little bit longer than the average sneaker. So if we take a look at it, mine are in the reverse toile de Juif design, and I love the tiger. That's really what I love the most about this pattern, is the tiger and all of the animals. I think that the book toe in the toile de Juif is something that is definitely on my wish list, and I hope to add to my collection one day. But I started off with the sneakers. And so if we look at the sneakers inside, just like the other shoes, they are leather. And of course inside we have Christian Dior again embossed in the metallic silver. And then of course the tongue is leather, and then you have the white shoelaces. The shoelaces also have this really pretty detail on them where it says Christian Dior on the front, which I really like. And then you have the leather toe cap and then the leather soles, and it's a bit of a platform, maybe like an inch. And then on the back you have Christian Dior and then J'adore on the back. And then this is what the bottom of the shoe looks like. You have that really pretty black star, and that's the pattern of the bottom. Now moving into the comfort and the wear and tear of these shoes, very much like my D-Way slides, these were not comfortable the first time I wore them. The back of the shoe completely tore up the heels of my foot, and I was wearing socks. This part of the shoe is really, really stiff when you first get it. So I would recommend, if you do want to get these shoes, I would use the blow dryer trick. I would just take the blow dryer and kind of push this down to soften it and work the leather, because otherwise they are incredibly uncomfortable. I had to, the first time I wore them, I had to kind of put my foot on the back and wear them like this because I couldn't walk anymore and I was literally bleeding. So something to consider when you buy these shoes. These are really expensive shoes not to be comfortable in. So yeah, the blow dryer trick is one I definitely recommend. The other concern I have about buying designer shoes is the scuffing. Of course, anytime you have a sneaker, it's inevitable that you're going to get scuffing. For me, it's always walking upstairs. For some reason, I can't walk up a flight of stairs in sneakers and not scuff them. It's just who I am. I don't know. But here, if you look at the top of one of my sneakers, there is scuffing. I don't like it. I mean, when you buy a pretty white pair of shoes, I want my shoes to stay white. I know it's not possible. You're walking on the dirty street. But I do have a trick for this too, and it is a magic eraser. These are really popular here in the States, and I know that they have them in the UK as well, but basically, if you don't know what they are, they come like a little sponge like this, and all you have to do is wet the sponge and rub it on the area that you want to clean, and this works for a ton of different surfaces. It's a household cleaning item, but it works for shoes too. So I've gone ahead and wet the magic eraser a little bit, and here is my shoe, and so I'm just going to go ahead and rub the magic eraser on the scuff. And so that is my trick. It just comes right off with the magic eraser. Currently the shoes in the particular pattern that I have, they are retailing for $990 US. They do vary in price though, depending on the pattern that you get. I think the oblique are a little more expensive at $1,050. But all in all, if you are considering getting these sneakers from Dior, I would just take into account that the first few times that you do wear them, they're not going to be comfortable. The blow dryer trick that I mentioned can definitely help. But then after that, the leather interior does much like the leather interior of the espadrille, where it starts to mold to your foot and get more comfortable. So over time, that issue of the discomfort of the shoe definitely goes away. Alright guys, that's it for this video. I just also wanted to remind you guys that I still have my Gucci Ophidia makeup case giveaway going on. It is open until April 11th. I'll go ahead and link that video up above if you're interested in entering it. But until the next time guys, thank you so much for watching. Bye!